All right, we got her ported up. Intake, exhaust, got the transfers here, got the upper transfers. So now we're gonna start the process of trying to go back together. First thing we gotta do is we'll get this intake. Our boot has to go on before you put the cylinder back down, or you'll be pulling it back off to get it put on. Let me get this clamp back down here. See if it's gonna be nice to me. And we'll get it on the, it'll be nice to get it on the first try, but not so much. Let's see if we can get her here. Almost. There it went. Wasn't too bad. All right. Before you go in there, you need to inspect this purge tube. It's good. So now that we got that, I like to give it a little blow through the purge hole, make sure everything's working. And it is. We're going to apply some of this gasket maker moto seal on this, because we're not putting a base on here. We need to make sure that we get it sealed up good. You won't have no air leaks here at this juncture. Just make sure you don't get any down in your transfers, because then you're just defeating the purpose of opening your transfers up. What I usually do is I'll put this stuff on here good, and then I'll go back and just make sure I got everything clean as I can. Like I know right there I got a little bit going into transfers, which I'll get that cleaned up. Got to get some right here around the purge, but you don't want to fill your purge up. So then I'll come back in, get this cleaned off. I'll come back in here with a little scratch off and just make sure it's all clean. Don't have any issues. I'm not stopping anything up here. Got a little bit in my purge groove that I'm trying to get cleaned out. All right. One in there. Some right there in that transfer. That out. Now we are ready to sit it down. We'll just, I've got some clamps, but I think I can, it's a single ring, so it's usually not too bad to put the single ring on without a piston clamp. Let's get this oiled up good here. Get some oil down in the cylinder here so it slides a little bit better. And let's knock her down on here. Pull the cylinder up, piston all the way to the top. Give it a little squeeze of the ring. And it's going down in. Then we'll just go down. We'll make sure everything sits in like it should. And it is. Now, we'll put a little bit of blue Loctite on these head bolts. And we will go back together with it. Let me find my last head bolt in here. There it is. Now you see why I said I like to separate things into bins, because it makes it just easier to locate what you're trying to find when you're trying to go back together. Just a drop will do it. You don't need a pile. I'm going to overdo it in case you have to go back in here at some point in time and make it extremely difficult on yourself. One more. These are all 4mm hex sockets. We'll run them back down and you just give them a little snug, and then we're going to tighten them basically in X crossing patterns. That way we don't, because this is all aluminum, so we want to make sure we're kind of pulling it all down at the same rate. Tell you what, working in the saw shop in the summertime ain't as much fun as it is in the cooler months. It's really been brutal the last few weeks. And up until about lunch or so, it's not too bad in here. But then after that, it really starts getting warm. Sure would be nice to have one air conditioning, but I guess I'd be soft if I had to work like that all the time. So now we're gonna snug them down good now in the X crossing pattern. And once we do that, the engine assembly portion is completed. Now we're going to go ahead and put the flywheel back on, because I like to be able to just kind of spin it over to make sure we don't have any issues with any of that. Probably should have drained the bar oil out of this thing before I got started, because every time I flip it on its side, it wants to try to run out. Alright, now back to 13mm again. Alright, we are snug down good. Alright, feels like we cycling good in there. We got nothing touching, hitting, feels like it's rolling over good and smooth. Don't feel like there's nothing dragging. So next thing we're gonna do is wipe this off. Probably should have washed it while I was washing everything else. We'll give it a good wipe down. This is our air deflector. Guard in there. It helps move the air. It's got a couple functions. It helps move the air, but then the other function also helps organize the wires and stuff to keep them out of the flywheel, because it all runs right there beside each other. And as you can see how dirty that thing was, but it won't go back that way. And but I think before I install this, I'm gonna go ahead and we got to address the return line for the fuel tank, because really the fuel tank needs to go on before this go on, because there's a screw inside of this compartment right here that actually holds the fuel tank on. And once I don't like to go back and do rework. So lay that there. Just grab the fuel tank. Let's set the engine to the side just a second. And you can see that's what's left of the little fuel body there. I've got some line here. And I'm just going to stick on there right like that. We'll cut it off when we get up in there and see what size we need. Bring this back in. I'm going to go ahead here and get the front line first. Let it sit in there like that. I like to go ahead and get the front screw on there to start with. Now we're going to take this. Now see, this thing will come back around like that. I'm going to feed this up to this hole. That's my return line hole. And then we're going to stick this up to this bottom as well. Fuel line. Now, there's two little rubber grommets now that we've got to use, put in here. It takes two rubber grommets and it takes two little collared screws that go up in them grommets, and the grommets sit right there on both sides. Kind of slip it in there like so. All this here like I want it. Go ahead and put this one in on this side. These just basically go, like I said earlier, they just kind of go down through the crankcases where the threads are. So you got to be careful not to over crank them, because there's really no threads in these AV buffers right here. They just sit on that. There's a little collar on this screw and they just kind of sit there. And if you over tighten them, then ain't nothing, and you strip out that. But remember to think, this is just a plastic crankcase. So if you over tighten them and you strip it out, now you don't really have any AV to speak of there. All right, now we'll go in this one. Like so. And this is the one I was saying was back in this compartment. I need to get in first. All right, and I have one more up here at the top that I need to get in right here on the side. All right. We now have the handle is back on it. Fuel lines is back in here. Like I said, we'll cut this one whenever we get it to where we need it lengthwise and everything. All right, let's see. The next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and finish this side up real quick. All right, so now this just kind of lays in here around all your wiring. The coil wire snaps in there. There's a groove for it. And then these blue and black wires off the coil, electrical wires, kill switch, whatever, comes up here and there's a little groove right here on the front. You snap it out, make sure it's all snapped down in there because you don't want this stuff coming loose. And then there's a little hole right here in the side that needs to go through. Just feed them through here, and that's how it accesses in there around the carburetor. Snap it down right here. So it's together. Now all we got to do is put the side cover on, put the screws on, hold it in place. So let's do that. So that goes there. Let me find my one here. It's kind of hard to mix these up because they're a different screw, which also makes them a lot of times pretty hard to find if you need some more, if you've lost them. And they just don't give them things away. Every time I had to buy them, I thought, man, that's a lot of money for that, no more than what you're getting. But so you want to make sure you get these snug. And I usually check mine pretty regular. These and the top covers on all saws, you need to just make sure every time you use it, when you're done, you need to check them, make sure that they're tight. All right, we got that tight now. All right. Now let's stick the carburetor in here real quick. So I've already cleaned it out, pulled the bottom cover, like I said, and we've done a little clean out on it. I need to go ahead and drop down this piece in here. This is my throttle linkage and the baffle for it. Slot in the front of the handle, and then this bellow or baffle, whatever, just kind of it's grooved, so it just kind of slides down in there. All right, now it's there. All right, now we're ready for the carb. And you just got to kind of maneuver that around the throttle linkage as we go in. Remember, I had to cut this off earlier, so let me get this little piece of gas line off here before we start to go back on. It was really on there pretty good. I mean, you sure we wasn't getting any air leak around that. Also, I'm gonna get these limber caps off of here. do is just grab a pair of needle nose and just pretty much they just sit down on top, so you just gotta kind of yank them off of there, tear them off, whatever you gotta do, but they will come off. Well, this saw has been kind of difficult with things. You can tell when stuff ain't been messed with in a while, it don't tend to want to participate. There we go. Got that off. So I'm gonna go ahead and set them at what I normally do, factory specs. Just run these all the way in. And I usually go about 1 1/4 out on both for a starting point. Quarter. Half, 1 1/4. And I'll just leave the idle kind of where it's at right now. Where it was at before. So hopefully that'll be set pretty close. We'll go ahead and stick this back on there. We gotta hook the choke back up. You just push it in. He just pushes in, just snaps in there like that. There's nothing to it. It's pretty easy setup. I usually go ahead and pull the choke out so it'll close the butterfly, so it makes it easier to go in there. We can get our screws in. Don't worry about none of these fuel lines until I get the carburetor in there. Now we just kind of set it down in there and start trying to line things up. Gotta remember this. Gotta kind of get this throttle linkage in or over the top of the fuel line. And get everything ready to fasten itself. Oh, this little grommet's turned sideways in here. It'd be easy if I go and fix that before. There we go. We start trying to go in with it. Yeah. Just take my until we get it kind of situated here. Looks like I got in too far. Yeah, I thought it was. It's trying, one of the screws is trying to go down in the intake hole. Alright, that one started. Let's jump over on the other side and see if this one gets started. No. There it went. That one got started. Now I can push this choke back in. Back in there. All the way. Tight. That's tight. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and before we mess with the throttle, let's see. Let's go ahead and get the throttle in there. So let me wipe the sweat off on my face. All right. So I'm gonna pull you in real close here. Let's see if I can get you stood right here. And I'm going to see if I can show you All right, so this right here, you see how it's up under here. It's gotta come. So what we gotta do is we gotta get this up out of the way. Be careful not to bend that. But this goes in behind the tab. Let me get it back there. Gotta go wide open throttle with it to get it back in there. All right, come on. All right, so finally got it in there. So you see it sitting down in there. Now we'll see this little tab right here. It just goes right under there and snaps up under that. And that's what holds it in place. So it is now secured. I'm gonna put you back up here. All right. Need to test it. It's working good. It's going wide open throttle, all those things. I'm gonna now can come here and hook this fuel line up. All right. Now we got to pop ourselves back in these grommets. So all you do is just pull the grommet back, kind of just squeeze it, and it'll pop down in there. That goes in. Hear the thunder outside. We must be fitting to get a storm here. And then we're gonna do the same here. We're gonna prise this back, and we're in. All right. So now, first thing I'm gonna do here. Let's see if that's going. Yeah, I think we'll come under here. We're gonna go ahead and hook these kill switch wires back up. It's up on there, and I'll get that one in just a minute. Now I can get my fuel line. Get the bubble. And go ahead and pop it in there. All right, that's in there. The one coming off the carburetor goes to the short hole. Now we just need to cut this to length. About right there. And we'll go a little bit shorter. Believe me, you can cut. Measure twice, cut once. Because once you cut it too short, you're starting all over again. All right, so there we are. Now I can come here pull this in the on position. I might have, should have, let me pop this back out of this drum. It's easier if I let it rock up to the side like that for me so I can access it better. There's a little groove in there. All right, it's in. And now I can pop this back down. All right. So we have got the cylinder on, carburetor's back in, fuel lines is hooked up, throttle linkage, choke, everything's ready to go. I'm gonna shut you off, get prepared, set up. We're gonna finish it up with a muffler, handles, side covers, clutch, and bust it off in the next video.